Ecological Solid Waste Management Act of 2000, RA 9003, a major step to better solid waste management in the Philippines. This act makes provision for the efficient solid waste management, for the volume reduction of the waste, its environment-friendly disposal, composting, recycling, reuse, recovery, green charcoal process, for the collection, treatment and disposal in environmentally sound solid waste management facilities, whereas it shall be possible to correctly dispose the proper segregation, collection, transport, storage, treatment and disposal of solid waste. Types of waste. Hazardous waste. 1. Shall refer to solid waste or combination of solid waste which because of its quantity, concentration, or physical, chemical or infectious characteristics may a. cause, or significantly contribute to an increase in mortality or an increase in serious irreversible, or incapacitating reversible, illness, or b. pose a substantial present or potential hazard to human health or the environment when improperly treated, stored, transported, or disposed of, or otherwise managed. 2. Solid waste shall refer to all discarded household, commercial waste, non-hazardous institutional and industrial waste, street sweepings, construction debris, agricultural waste, and other non-hazardous, non-toxic solid waste. 3. Infectious waste from hospitals such as equipment, instruments, utensils, and fomites of a disposable nature from patients who are suspected to have or have been diagnosed as having communicable diseases and must therefore be isolated as required by public health agencies. Laboratory waste such as pathological specimens, i.e., all tissues, specimens of blood elements, excreta, and secretions obtained from patients or laboratory animals, and disposable fomites that may harbor or transmit pathogenic organisms, and surgical operating room pathologic specimens and disposable fomites attendant thereto, and similar disposable materials from outpatient areas and emergency rooms. Institutional mechanism. National Solid Waste Management Commission. The Commission shall be composed of 14 members from the government sector and 3 members from the private sector. The private sector shall be represented by the following: a. A representative from NGOs whose principal purpose is to promote recycling and the protection of air and water quality. b. A representative from the recycling industry. And c. A representative from the manufacturing or packaging industry. Powers and functions of the Commission. The Commission shall oversee the implementation of solid waste management plans and prescribe policies to achieve the objectives of this Act. Among its duties are preparing of the National Solid Waste Management Framework, approving of local solid waste management plans in accordance with its rules and regulations, reviewing and monitoring the implementation of local solid waste management plans, and coordinating the operation of local solid waste management boards in the provincial and city, municipal levels. Visitorial powers of the Department. The DENR or its duly authorized representative shall have: 1. The right to access and the right to copy the records required to be maintained pursuant to the provisions of this Act. 2. The right to enter the premises of any generator, recycler or manufacturer, or other facilities any time to question any employee or investigate any fact, condition or matter which may be necessary to determine any violation, or which may aid in the effective enforcement of this Act and its implementing rules and regulations. This section shall not apply to private dwelling places unless the visitorial power is otherwise judicially authorized. Role of LGUs in solid waste management. The LGUs shall be primarily responsible for the implementation and enforcement of the provisions of this Act within their respective jurisdictions. Segregation and collection of solid waste shall be conducted at the barangay level specifically for biodegradable, compostable and reusable wastes, provided that the collection of non-recyclable materials and special waste shall be the responsibility of the municipality or city. Provincial Solid Waste Management Board. A Provincial Solid Waste Management Board shall be established in every province. The Provincial Solid Waste Management Board shall have the following functions and responsibilities. 1. Develop a provincial solid waste management plan from the submitted solid waste management plans of the respective city and municipal solid waste management boards. 2. It shall review and integrate the submitted plans of all its component cities and municipalities and ensure that the various plans complement each other, and have the requisite components. 3. The provincial solid waste management plan shall be submitted to the Commission for approval. 4. The provincial plan shall reflect the general program of action and initiatives of the provincial government in implementing a solid waste management program that would support the various initiatives of its component cities and municipalities. 5. Oversee the implementation of the provincial solid waste management plan. 6. Review every 2 years or as the need arises the provincial solid waste management plan. And 7. Allow for the clustering of LGUs for the solution of common solid waste management problems. City and Municipal Solid Waste Management Board. Each city or municipality shall form a city or municipal waste management board that shall prepare, submit and implement a plan for the safe and sanitary management of solid waste generated in areas under its geographic and political coverage. The city and municipal solid waste boards shall have the following duties and responsibilities. 1. Develop the city or municipal solid waste management plan that shall ensure the long-term management of solid waste, as well as integrate the various solid waste management plans and strategies of the barangays in its area of jurisdiction. In the development of the solid waste management plan, it shall conduct consultations with the various sectors of the community. 2. Monitor the implementation of the city or municipal solid waste management plan through its various political subdivisions and in cooperation with the private sector and the NGOs. 3. Oversee the implementation of the city or municipal solid waste management plan. 4. Review every 2 years or as the need arises the city or municipal solid waste management plan for purposes of ensuring its sustainability, viability, effectiveness and relevance in relation to local and international developments in the field of solid waste management. 5. Coordinate the efforts of its component barangays in the implementation of the city or municipal solid waste management plan. Local government solid waste management plans, the province, city or municipality, through its local solid waste management boards, shall prepare its respective 10-year solid waste management plans consistent with the National Solid Waste Management Framework. The plan shall place primary emphasis on implementation of all feasible reuse, recycling, and composting programs while identifying the amount of landfill and transformation capacity that will be needed for solid waste which cannot be reused, recycled, or composted. It shall be reviewed and updated every year by the provincial, city or municipal solid waste management board. All local government solid waste management plans shall be subjected to the approval of the Commission. The components of the local government solid waste management plan. The solid waste management plan shall include, but not be limited to, the following components. A. City or municipal profile. The plan shall indicate the following background information on the city or municipality and its component barangays, covering important highlights of the distinct geographic and other conditions. B. Waste characterization. The LGU waste characterization component shall identify the constituent materials which comprise the solid waste generated within the jurisdiction of the LGU. The information shall be representative of the solid waste generated and disposed of within that area. C. Collection and transfer. The plan shall take into account the geographic subdivisions to define the coverage of the solid waste collection area in every barangay. The barangay shall be responsible for ensuring that a 100% collection efficiency from residential, commercial, industrial and agricultural sources, where necessary within its area of coverage, is achieved. D. Processing. The plan shall define the methods and the facilities required to process the solid waste, including the use of intermediate treatment facilities for composting, recycling, conversion and other waste processing systems. E. Source reduction. The source reduction component shall include a program and implementation schedule which shows the methods by which the LGU will, in combination with the recycling and composting components, reduce a sufficient amount of solid waste disposed. F. Recycling. The LGU recycling component shall describe the following. 1. The types of materials to be recycled under the programs. 2. The methods for determining the categories of solid wastes to be diverted from disposal at a disposal facility through recycling. And 3. New facilities and expansion of existing facilities needed to implement the recycling component. G. Composting. The LGU composting component shall describe the following. 1. The types of materials which will be composted under the programs. 2. The methods for determining the categories of solid wastes to be diverted from disposal at a disposal facility through composting. And 3. New facilities, and expansion of existing facilities needed to implement the composting component. H. Solid waste facility capacity and final disposal. Open dump sites shall not be allowed as final disposal sites. I. Special waste. The special waste component shall include existing waste handling and disposal practices for special wastes or household hazardous wastes, and the identification of current and proposed programs to ensure the proper handling, reuse, and long-term disposal of special wastes. J. Privatization of solid waste management projects. The plan shall likewise indicate specific measures to promote the participation of the private sector in the management of solid wastes, particularly in the generation and development of the essential technologies for solid waste management. K. Incentive programs. A program providing for incentives, cash or otherwise, which shall encourage the participation of concerned sectors shall likewise be included in the plan. Owner and operator. Responsibility for compliance with the standards in this Act shall rest with the owner and/or operator. If specifically designated, the operator is considered to have primary responsibility for compliance. However, this does not relieve the owner of the duty to take all reasonable steps to assure compliance with these standards and any assigned conditions. When the title to a disposal is transferred to another person, the new owner shall be notified by the previous owner of the existence of these standards and of the conditions assigned to assure compliance. Waste characterization. The department, in coordination with the LGUs, shall be responsible for the establishment of the guidelines for the accurate characterization of wastes, including determination of whether or not wastes will be compatible with containment features and other wastes, and whether or not wastes are required to be managed as hazardous wastes under RA 6969, otherwise known as the Toxic Substances and Hazardous and Nuclear Wastes Control Act. Criteria for siting a sanitary landfill. The following shall be the minimum criteria for the siting of sanitary landfills. A. The site selected must be consistent with the overall land use plan of the LGU. B. The site must be accessible from major roadways or thoroughfares. C. The site should have an adequate quantity of earth cover material that is easily handled and compacted. D. The site must be chosen with regard for the sensitivities of the community's residents. E. The site must be located in an area where the landfill's operation will not detrimentally affect environmentally sensitive resources such as aquifer, groundwater reservoir or watershed area. F. The site should be large enough to accommodate the community's wastes for a period of 5 years during which people must internalize the value of environmentally sound and sustainable solid waste disposal. G. The site chosen should facilitate developing a landfill that will satisfy budgetary constraints, including site development, operation for many years, closure, post-closure care and possible remediation costs. H. Operating plans must include provisions for coordinating with recycling and resource recovery projects. And I. Designation of a separate containment area for household hazardous wastes. Criteria for establishment of sanitary landfill. The following shall be the minimum criteria for the establishment of sanitary landfills. A. Liners. A system of clay layers and/or geosynthetic membranes used to contain leachate and reduce or prevent contaminant flow to groundwater. B. Leachate collection and treatment system. Installation of pipes at the low areas of the liner to collect leachate for storage and eventual treatment and discharge. C. Gas control and recovery system. A series of vertical wells or horizontal trenches containing permeable materials and perforated piping placed in the landfill to collect gas for treatment or productive use as an energy source. D. Groundwater monitoring well system. Wells placed at an appropriate location and depth for taking water samples that are representative of groundwater quality. 014-2E. Cover. Two forms of cover consisting of soil and geosynthetic materials to protect the waste from long-term contact with the environment. 1. A daily cover placed over the waste at the close of each day's operations, and 2. A final cover, or cap, which is the material placed over the completed landfill to control infiltration of water, gas emission to the atmosphere, and erosion. F. Closure procedure. With the objectives of establishing low-maintenance cover systems and final cover that minimizes the infiltration of precipitation into the waste. Installation of the final cover must be completed within 6 months of the last receipt of wastes. And G. Post-closure care procedure. During this period, the landfill owner shall be responsible for providing for the general upkeep of the landfill, maintaining all of the landfill's environmental protection features, operating monitoring equipment, remediating groundwater should it become contaminated, and controlling landfill gas migration or emission. Mandatory segregation of solid waste. The LGUs shall evaluate alternative roles for the public and private sectors in providing collection services, type of collection system, or combination of systems, that best meet their needs. Provided that segregation of waste shall primarily be conducted at the source, to include household, institutional, industrial, commercial and agricultural sources. Provided, further, that waste shall be segregated into the categories provided in Sec. 22 of this Act. Requirements for collection of solid waste. The following shall be the minimum standards and requirements for the collection of solid waste. 017A. All collectors and other personnel directly dealing with collection of solid waste shall be equipped with personal protective equipment to protect them from the hazards of handling solid wastes. B. Necessary training shall be given to the collectors and personnel to ensure that the solid wastes are handled properly and in accordance with the guidelines pursuant to this Act. And C. Collection of solid waste shall be done in a manner which prevents damage to the container, and spillage or scattering of solid waste within the collection vicinity. Requirements for the transport of solid waste. The use of separate collection schedules and/or separate trucks or haulers shall be required for specific types of wastes. Otherwise, vehicles used for the collection and transport of solid waste shall have the appropriate compartments to facilitate efficient storing of sorted wastes while in transit. Vehicles shall be designed to consider road size, condition and capacity to ensure the safe and efficient collection and transport of solid wastes. Guidelines for transfer stations. Transfer stations shall be designed and operated for efficient waste handling capacity and in compliance with environmental standards and guidelines set pursuant to this Act and other regulations. Provided that no waste shall be stored in such station beyond 24 hours. Non-environmentally acceptable products. Within 1 year from the effectivity of this Act, the Commission shall, after public notice and hearing, prepare a list of non-environmentally acceptable products as defined in this Act that shall be prohibited according to a schedule that shall be prepared by the Commission. Provided, however, that non-environmentally acceptable products shall not be prohibited unless the Commission first finds that there are alternatives available which are available to consumers at no more than 10% greater cost than the disposable product. Prohibited acts and corresponding fines and penalties. Section 48 Prohibited Acts. Section 49 Fines and Penalties. 1. Littering, throwing, dumping of waste matters in public places, such as roads, sidewalks, canals, esteros or parks, an establishment, or causing or permitting the same. A fine of not less than 300 pesos but not more than 1,000 pesos. Or render community service for not less than 1 day to not more than 15 days to an LGU where such prohibited acts are committed or both. 2. Undertaking activities or operating, collecting or transporting equipment in violation of sanitation operation and other requirements or permits set forth in or established pursuant to this Act. 3. the open burning of solid waste. A fine of not less than 300 pesos but not more than 1,000 pesos, or imprisonment of not less than 1 day to not more than 15 days, or both. 4. Causing or permitting the collection of non-segregated or unsorted waste. 5. Squatting in open dumps and landfills. 6. Open dumping, burying of biodegradable or non-biodegradable materials in flood-prone areas. 7. Unauthorized removal of recyclable material intended for collection by authorized persons. A fine of not less than 1,000 pesos but not more than 3,000 pesos, or imprisonment of not less than 15 days but not more than 6 months, or both. 8. The mixing of source-separated recyclable material with other solid waste in any vehicle, box, container or receptacle used in solid waste collection or disposal. 9. Establishment or operation of open dumps as enjoined in this Act, or closure of said dumps. 10. The manufacture, distribution or use of non-environmentally acceptable packaging materials. 11. Importation of consumer products packaged in non-environmentally acceptable materials. First offense. A fine of 500,000 pesos, P 500,000.00, plus an amount not less than 5%, but not more than 10% of his net annual income during the previous year. Second and subsequent offense. The additional penalty of imprisonment of a minimum period of 1 year, but not to exceed 3 years at the discretion of the court. 1-2. Importation of toxic wastes misrepresented as recyclable, or with recyclable content. 1-3. Transport and dumping in bulk of collected domestic, industrial, commercial and institutional wastes in areas other than centers or facilities prescribed under this Act. XX012A fine of not less than 10,000 pesos but not more than 200,000 pesos, or imprisonment of not less than 30 days but not more than 3 years, or both. 1-4. Site preparation, construction, expansion or operation of waste management facilities without an environmental compliance certificate required pursuant to Presidential Decree No. 1586 and this Act and not conforming with the land use plan of the LGU. 15. The construction of any establishment within 200 meters from open dumps or controlled dumps, or sanitary landfills. And 16. The construction or operation of landfills or any waste disposal facility on any aquifer, groundwater reservoir or watershed area and/or any portions thereof. A fine not less than 100,000 pesos but not more than 1 million pesos, or imprisonment not less than 1 year but not more than 6 years, or both. The fines herein prescribed shall be increased by at least 10% every 3 years to compensate for inflation and to maintain the deterrent function of such fines. Offense committed by corporation, partnership, or other juridical entity duly organized in accordance with law. The Chief Executive Officer, President, General Manager, Managing Partner or such other officer in charge shall be liable for the commission of the offense penalized under this Act. Alien, he shall, after service of the sentence prescribed above, be deported without further administrative proceedings. Administrative sanctions. Local government officials and officials of government agencies concerned who fail to comply with and enforce rules and regulations promulgated relative to this Act shall be charged administratively.